My name is Roger Oldhope. This is Mr. Michael Patrick. We are with an organization, DSI, Dragon Society International. Dragon Society International, it was established around 30 years ago. It was to teach advanced hand combat skills to civilians, but we have evolved. We also have a Dragon Society Tactical Division. That's the division that Michael and I are in. Michael is the primary personnel of that division. What we do, we have current and prior police and military personnel who are forward operators, and we teach training classes that have to do with survival tactics to law enforcement. We teach civilian and to some military personnel. So that's why we're here speaking to y'all today. We're going to talk about active shooters, give you a 1-hour quick course. We're going to be talking very quickly, so we'll get through this as painless as possible. We may not be more educated than more educational than Mike Warner, but we'll try to be more educated than Mike. Y'all just want to tell me that I said that our goal is to be more entertaining. When we look at these critical events, something that we find we're the first point of failure. What's the very first point of failure in a critical event? And the thing that we always see is the largest failure is before the event ever started, it's the failure to plan. The failure to realize that I could face that situation and I simply didn't plan for that. So that's what you're doing here today. You're planning for that type of event. We know in our society, not just in our nation, in our world, that these type of events have become more commonplace. And so what people are doing, they're looking at this and saying, you know, we all have that great hope that nothing will ever happen in our community, in our facility, but let's be prepared. There's a saying in the martial arts where you had this student asked the master, said, you know, you teach me to fight, you teach me warrior skills, but then you teach me all of this, but then you talk about peace. Because you always talk about, you know, everything should be peaceful. And he said, I don't understand. And the master said, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than being a gardener in a war. So it's better to be prepared, is what he's saying there. So it's better to be prepared, and that's what we've done. Something else we know, not only that's our first point of failure, but these events are very chaotic. And people are just simply not prepared to have that type of chaos and life-threatening event. You have a lot of input, you have audio input, you have visual input, you have people screaming, yelling, loud noises, lights flashing, and you're supposed to make good decisions during this. You're supposed to make sure that you're using the right side, the analytical side of your brain, and doing things deliberately and on purpose that we'll talk about, and making those good decisions. I've got a short audio clip I want to play for you. It's a simulation that we use when we train tactical people of an active shooting event. It's going to have, you'll hear loud noises, gunfire, simulated explosions. You'll hear people screaming and yelling. You'll hear children in this. And so if you have any post-trauma situation that you'd like to step out of the room for about 2 minutes, that's okay if you want to do that. I did this at a presentation I did on Monday, and I made that announcement. No one left the room, but sometime during the event, a lady left and was very upset, was crying a bit. She had been in a situation where she had been robbed, and the guy had a gun, caused some post-trauma to her, upset her. You know, she was okay. She went through the rest of the training and everything. But it's not our intent to expose you to that. Our intent is to expose you to this and say, we want you to listen to this. We want you to think about this. And if it's this chaotic, how hard is it to make those decisions that we need to be making? just hearing the audible part of that. We do this with tactical operators. We put them in these facilities. They have flashing lights going on. They have this noise. They have people that they're having to deal with, and so they're having all this input that they're having to deal with. I was in Quantico at the FBI Academy several years when a large-scale event had occurred across the nation of a shooting. And by the time I was there at Quantico, the guy who had took the first SWAT team into that event came in and done a presentation there at Quantico, and I actually had an opportunity to speak with him after he'd done his event. And we talked about the challenges for him and his SWAT team when they went into that facility. And the things he said, we always taught, and we've done this in law enforcement for years, we teach you, we don't want to teach you to lose, we teach you to win. So we put you in all these winning situations. And he said, that's great. And he said, I believe in that theory. He said, but the thing was, when you're in the middle of this chaotic event and you feel like you're losing and you haven't been there before, he said, not only do we need to teach them how to do when they're winning, we need to be teaching people what to do when you're losing. So what are we doing in these critical events when people are dying around us and people are getting shot? And he said, the chaos is unbelievable. He said, I have always been taught, I'm the commander, I'm in control. He said, I felt like I had no control that day. We're going through this facility and the sprinkler system had went off and there was water in the facility. And I'm up to my knees in water. And he said, I'm going through there. My mission is forward operator, go forward and stop the threat. There's explosions still going off. As he's leading his team in, there's explosions still going off. In his mind, people are still being harmed. Mr. Packard will give you statistics of how many people are dying each minute in these events. So in his mind, he's got to go. This kid grabs his pants leg and says, help me. He has to take the kid's hand off of his leg and move forward. He said, I wasn't prepared for that. He said, I didn't feel like I was in trouble. He comes over my headset. He said, I'm watching this water. He said, the water is kind of moving. The waves of people moving around, things moving around. The explosion is moving the water. He said, it comes over my headset that watch out for the backpacks. We have just learned the explosives, the devices are in the backpacks. And he said, as water rises and falls, each time it falls, what does he see? Backpacks. And he said, that sense of not being in control, that sense of this being so chaotic and everything, he said, I had to go back and change the way I was training my people. So, bad things do happen. But we can train to work through the bad things as well, through these critical, these chaotic events. Another thing we commonly hear when we teach is, we'll ask people after events, we'll say, why did you do something or why didn't you do something? And they'll simply say, I didn't know what I could do. I didn't know legally, morally, and I didn't know my physical skills. I didn't know what I could do. So that's the reason I did nothing, or I did something that maybe wasn't the thing that I should have done. So we want to talk a little bit about use of force. I've been qualified by the state courts and the federal courts to testify on use of force cases. When there's an application to use of force, I can go in and give my opinion on was that a reasonable level of force to be used to that event, to neutralize that event. And so we're going to talk a little bit about use of force. So if you're put in that situation, you can say, I pretty much know legally I'm okay or I'm not okay. So what can I do legally? The state of Tennessee, under TCA, Tennessee Code Annotated, tells you that you can legally use force against a person who's trying to harm you or someone else. You can use force to stop that. It's legal to self-defense. Self-defense is legal. When we look at force and we talk particularly about deadly force, it's where we would get in trouble if we had a situation and we want to know what that means. Deadly force is lethal force that is likely or intended to cause death or great bodily harm. That would be looked at as a court system as, any reasonable person can look at that and say that's likely or that was intended to cause death. Non-lethal force just opposite of that. Force not likely, not intended to cause death or great bodily harm. A simple example is this. If I'm being confronted, I'm in a situation where there's a little conflict, and I just tap somebody on the shoulders and I say, stop, just get away, don't bother me. They slip and fall backwards and hit their head. And now they're bleeding. They're bleeding out. And someone, a reasonable person, looks at that and they say, was that deadly force? Was that an application of deadly force? Was it reasonable on my part to believe that by me touching their shoulder and stepping away, that could cause great bodily harm or death to them? Probably not, right? I could say, no, I did not make an application of deadly force. Could have turned into it, but my intent wasn't there. I didn't make an application of deadly force. Same guy's doing that. He's harassing me, he's doing whatever he's doing, and I don't like that. And so I pick up a hammer off the work table, and I smash him upside the head with the hammer. He falls out again. He's bleeding out again, but from what I just smashed his head with the hammer. And the court looks at that. Now, did I show intent? Is a reasonable person going to look at that and say, well, you did guy in the head with a hammer, you're going to do great bodily harm or deadly force. So that's kind of the difference in the scenario. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So it's important that we have the understanding of any level of force that we apply. When we apply force to someone, we have to be able to justify that level of force. So is the threat immediate? Is it imminent? Which simply means this: is it real? Is it happening now? Is this something that's occurring at this moment and I have to react to? And is it really happening, or is it just something that I perceive might happen? You know, I thought he might. I thought she might. And so I did this. They're not going to accept that. It has to be something. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do a preemptive defense strategy, which means I don't have to wait for the guy to start shooting at me to shoot first. I don't have to wait for the guy to hit me in the head with the ball bat to say, I probably should do something to stop him from hitting me in the head with a ball bat. I can do that. I just need to understand this. Components of jeopardy. When I testify in these use of force cases, basically it boils down to this. Did that person that made that application of force meet these components of jeopardy? Did the other person have the means, the intent, and the opportunity to do physical harm to that person or to someone else? If they meet this, the means, the intent, and the opportunity, then the application of force is pretty cut and dry. I could have done that. Mr. Patrick standing at the back of the room. If I draw my concealed firearm and I punch it out like this and I say, I'm going to kill you. And he's the quickest draw in the world. He's been practicing his quick draw from his ankle holster for 20 years. So he's able to get his ankle holster up there and he draws up and he shoots me before I can shoot him. Is he probably okay? Yes, because why? Did I have the means? Yep. I had the firearm, didn't I? Did I have the intent? He may not know me well enough to know if I'm lying or if I'm going to tell him a lie or not, but I told him. And what else did I do? How else did I have the intent? I'm pointing the weapon at him in a combat or an aggressive manner. Do I have the opportunity? I do, no. Yeah, if I can shoot, now some people would probably miss, and I may be one of those, but if I can shoot from here, let's change that up a little bit. Now I have a club. I have just some kind of baseball bat or a club. And I say to Mr. Patrick, I'm going to smash your head in with this club. And they said, well, that's antisocial behavior on your part. So he draws that weapon again and he shoots me. And he goes to court and they said, why'd you shoot Mr. Overholt 9 times? And he said, I run out of bullets. That's all we can weapon. 9 runs. They say, no. Why did you feel like you needed to shoot? You know, what brought you to that decision? So he shot me. Now I'm standing here, he's standing back there. I've got my club in my hand, and he shot me. Did I have the intent? I had the intent, didn't I? I told him, and maybe I didn't, and I had the club in a menacing or a threatening manner. Did I have the means? What do I not have? Can I hit him in the head from here? He would have to have a real big head, or I'd have to have a real long club. I do not have the opportunity. Does that make sense? If I take either of those away, if I move either of those things, I take them completely out of this, then I no longer can justify that level of force. So forcing not necessary or not needed to complete lawful objectives is considered to be excessive force. Can the victim become the attacker? Mm-hmm. What about this? Let's put it this round. We're going to look at what we're going to look at. Was that force that I made application of, was it reasonable and necessary? So we have an active shooter come to the facility. I'm a small guy and I'm able to sneak around, right? So I sneak around behind him and I take one of those big gears that you all have in those bins down there and I hit him in the back of the head. He goes down on the floor. He goes this way. The weapon goes this way. One of the guys or ladies who's pretty sharp, they get that weapon, they scoot it up, they secure it where he can't get that weapon anymore. He's on the floor, he's bleeding, but he's still alive. He's breathing. His hands are out where I can see him, but he's laying there and he's still alive. And I think, I can't believe you'd come in here and harm the people that I care about, because we do care about each other. Y'all don't walk around holding hands or nothing, not with hope, but you do care about each other, right? You do care about each other. And so they came in and they maybe taken the life of harming people that you cared about. They frightened you, and you say, well, I don't think I'll be frightened. We'll talk about perception in a moment. So they frightened you, he's harmed people, and you think, I'll show you can't do that. So he's laying there, so I'll take that same gear and I go over and I give him 3 more strikes. What has happened now?
You became the attacker.
I became the attacker. I cannot justify doing that. So, was the force reasonable? Was the force necessary? Would it have been reasonable and necessary once I neutralized that threat? It's no longer reasonable and necessary. So yes, I can become the attacker, and I have to face that as well. This is just so that you know, protection of property, deadly force is not permitted under state law to protect property. So I go to your locker, I steal your property, and you say, that's my property, you can't have it. You hit me in the head with that big piece of metal now. State court's going to say, no, you can't do that. But I steal your property and you say, I want my property back. I say, you're not going to get it back, and if you try to get it back, and I start trying to apply force to you, then it changes the scenario, doesn't it? You can't do it. Castle doctrine is you can protect your home. Don't get that confused. If I invade your home and you're in it, there's an assumption that you could be harmed while I'm there, so it turns it up a notch as to your ability to use force to protect yourself and your home and your family. We're not talking about that. We're talking about purely the protection of property and using a lethal or deadly force to do that. I keep looking at my watch because we're on very tight. That's scary what y'all understand. It's not because I'm bored morning out here, even though y'all may be. I'm used to teaching a lot of police people, so if y'all go to sleep or get disrupted or something, it'll be normal for me. Why do people use excessive force? The bottom line is they simply aren't trained at the level they need to. A lot of times they've not been trained to deal with these chaotic situations, slow themselves down, calm themselves down, and take the actions as needed. You must stop when the threat is over. It's the main thing we want you to understand about that. If the threat's neutralized, you need to quit. I want to talk about practice of survival awareness, and Mr. Patrick will talk some more about it. Survival awareness is just basically being aware of your surroundings, being aware of what's going on. Pretty loud in this facility when y'all down there working, isn't it? I've been through this facility twice while y'all were working. It is extremely loud. Could there be something going on in one part of the facility, and even though they're trying to alert you, you would never hear it? Absolutely, because survival awareness is just occasional. I know you guys and ladies work hard. I've seen you. I walked around and y'all thought about, well, who's the guy in the suit? I'd like to see him do some of this hard work. Right? I've walked around and saw that. And you're working hard, your head's down, you're doing what you've been paid to do. But every now and then you need to look up and look around, because you can't hear in this facility. So survival awareness facility may be something just as simple as look up, look around, what's going on. You've got a lot of ingress and egresses here. There's not activity around. There's places you can get in and out of this building, and there's not a lot of activity around those places. And I forgot to tell you all, y'all are supposed to keep me on this side of that corner where he's recording, because I walk around, I'm hyperactive, and I walk around, and he needs me to stay somewhere over here. Survival awareness is just simply every now and then, if you're inside of one of those egresses, look up, make sure everything's clear there. Okay? So that's the type of thing we're talking about. The older folks in here know who I'm talking about when I say Captain Kangaroo. Captain Kangaroo used to teach you stop, look, and listen. I know some of y'all have no idea, but the old guys know who I'm talking about, the older ladies and gentlemen, they know who I'm talking about, Captain Kangaroo. I was teaching at a police academy, and I said, Captain Kangaroo said, stop, look, and listen. One of the recruits in the back, he's raising his hand. He's got a question for the instructor. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, what department does Mr. Kangaroo work for, sir? He's not that kind of captain, okay? But his lessons was always stop, take a moment, look around and listen. And that's what we need to do to practice survival awareness. We will always tell you, and Mr. Patrick will tell you this again, and I will tell you this for the third time before you leave here, remove yourself from the threat as soon as possible. We'll always say to the first, get out first. Okay, 3 more things, then I'll let Mr. Patrick come up and talk to you, and he's very much more articulate than I am. Cover, concealment, perception gap. Cover is something that will stop a bullet. Now, it's not the stuff on TV, like car doors, and you go around the room and slide through the wall, and they're shooting, and the doors and the walls and stuff stop bullets. That's not reality. I've actually pulled dead people out of cars that got shot through the car door. There's nothing in the car door, unless it's been fortified, that's going to stop a bullet. The sheetrock wall won't stop a bullet, particularly if it's rifle rounds. Particularly if it's rifle rounds, it's not going to stop a bullet. You all have a lot of cover in this facility. You have a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of metal that would work that. Concealment is something I can hide myself from someone. I can conceal behind, but it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop a bullet. So we want to know the difference. When I'm hiding, if I'm concealing, am I behind something that will stop a bullet? If I have a choice, can I get behind cover instead of just concealing? Perception gap theory is this. If you run a scenario in your mind, if an active shooter coming in this facility, what would I do personally? I can run that scenario in my mind, and I'll look pretty good when I see it. I'll see him, I'll be letting people know, I'll be moving out, I'll be getting people out and being the hero, and staying calm, keeping myself calmed down, things like that. We'll probably have some military folks in here, and those of you who have served in the military, I first of all want to thank you for that, because that's the reason we can stand here and do this, because you keep us in a country where we can do things like this, right? So I appreciate that. But your police and your military people are going to tell you, no matter how much training you have in combat, it is frightening. It is scary to be in combat. Yeah? So that perception thing, that perception gap is what I think I will do versus what I will actually do. How I think it looks in my mind, the only way we know that is either when we put these people in very intense training and it still doesn't give us a full picture, or they're in a situation. So that's why we do this type of training, is to give you that, it's going to be chaotic. This is some things you can use, put this in your mindset, and let's do this. I've got a short video clip I want you to watch, and I want you to watch it in terms of perception gap theory.
You want me to show you time? I'll show you time. I never lose.
Get it.
We laugh at that because it is funny, isn't it? This is what I want you to think about. Those people were going out there to display their skills. Did it look like that in their mind? No, more likely it didn't. in their mind, they were gonna go out there, they were gonna have this high skill, display of their skills, show off their skill set and this performance. But I can assure you, it didn't look like that. What we have to be careful of is having that perception that we can do X, Y, Z, but then in reality, we haven't trained, we haven't prepared, we haven't planned to do that. So that's why we talk about the perception gap and that perception gap theory. We want you to focus on survival, turn the fear into motivation to become better. It doesn't mean you have to shut down, you have to be so frightened you can't do anything. Just say, you know, I probably will be frightened. I probably need to train. I probably need to practice more. When I say train, you don't have to go to a formal training class. Practice in your mind, what will I do? Mr. Patrick will talk some more about that as well. Except that some bad things could happen. That's why we're here today. We're no longer denying that this will never happen in our community. It could happen. We're going to prepare and hope that it never happens. But if it does happen, we're going to be a little bit better. Your safety is up to you. Do everything you can to keep yourself as safe as you possibly can. Our winning combination is we prepare mentally, we prepare physically, we try to stay physically fit, we prepare a skill set that will allow us to do that. Skill set doesn't mean you have to be some advanced level shooter or a martial artist. It's just simply, I have the skills to move from X, Y, Z. I know the difference between cover and concealment, and I know when I need to evade, I can back out and evade. I don't have to stay there and deal with that confrontation.
Kind of carrying on with what Mr. Overholt was saying is, I do a lot of training with different groups. I work with church security teams, I work with concealed carry people, I work with guys that do military simulation stuff, lots of different types of audiences that I do training with. And we try to make our training as real as we can make it. So we had some guys that were doing military simulation stuff. They said, could you amp it up a little bit? I'm be careful what you ask for, because I train with a lot of guys with special operations background, and when you tell them, let's amp up training a little bit, they get excited. You know, very sadistic. And so we brought the training in, we had these guys amped up, got them adrenalized and all that. One of the scenarios, we had a guy that was taken into custody, had been a shooter. They took him into custody properly. He was still kind of fighting and resisting. And we got like 4 people in a room with an M4 rifle pointed at this guy. And we told him to start resisting a little more, be a little more active. So he's like cuffed and he's like kicking and pushing and doing all this stuff, resisting. And the guy started yelling, shoot him, shoot him. And I thought, surely he's not going to do this. I'm walking around with a little camera filming all of this. And one of the guys, after being told 4 or 5 times to shoot the resisting guy, walks over and puts a handgun to his head and pulls the trigger. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be good for the debrief. Now we got somebody committed murder. So going off that scenario, that was a regular civilian who thought because of peer pressure and because this guy was resisting, he was justified to go shoot him in the head. That's not true, right? People do weird things when they're stressed out. We've seen this. One of the guys in one of the training sessions was 300 plus pounds, good sized dude, big biceps, works out all the time, carries a gun, open carry all the time. I'm all for Second Amendment and open or carrying and all that. He told me he wanted to be church security. I said, okay, so I went to train their church security team. So we put a shooter in the end of the hallway. They don't know where he's at. They're down from upper level of the church to the lower level, work down at the stairwell. They're really nervous. They know something's going to happen. I don't know what. First scenario out of the gate, he's walking down the hallway, works through the first room, second room. About that time, my shooter steps out, has a blank gun, doesn't fire any projectiles, just blanks. Little 22 crimp blanks, which are not super loud, but they're loud enough. Pointed the weapon straight at him, walked toward him, and fired a couple of shots. The guy literally threw his arms back, went backward, and almost knocked me down. It's almost both of us laying on our back, but I kind of got myself braced, and I pushed him back into the fight. And he had turned pale, he was shaking. I was watching his weapon hands doing this, and I thought, that's just little blank rounds. That's nothing like the real thing. If you've ever really had rifles going off in a room, it's loud. You feel the percussion. You feel the little shock waves coming off of that. When IEDs, explosives go off, the wall rattles, the ground shakes, and those kinds of things. We've done all that. We set all that up. So the thing is how do you overcome and make the right decisions? You get exposure to that. So the best we could do today, Meritor did not want us setting off explosives in their buildings, so we played an audio track for it. But as bad as that is, that's nowhere near the real stress or the real thing, right? So people make weird decisions. The brain does crazy things when you're under stress. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as we go. But what are these people that are doing these events? What are they, what drives them? What causes them to do what they do? Well, the reality is we don't really know exactly because there's different types of shooters. They don't all fit in one nice little box. Some of them are very motivated by revenge. We call it an avenger mindset. They want to get back at society, or they want to get back at their supervisor. They want to get back at the girlfriend that left them, or whatever. Those types of active shooters are very focused on a certain group. Now the reality is they don't just go after the person that wronged them. They go after everybody else too. One of the big church shootings, the guy that came in, he went to the church, and as he went in to shoot the place up, his whole purpose in having gone there was because his ex-wife left him, and he wanted to get her and her family. So the family didn't show up that Sunday. Didn't stop him from going in and shooting the church, shooting the people. So a lot of people died that day because his anger against his ex-wife and her family. Okay? The other set of mindset that you see are people who have more of a political agenda. They're going after making a big statement. The shooter in New Zealand was one of those. He chose New Zealand not because he had anything against the mosque there or the people there. He went to New Zealand to shoot because it getting most attention. He wanted to do it in America, and he said, well, America has a lot of shootings. It won't draw as much attention if I do it in America. But if I do it somewhere like New Zealand, where they never have a shooting, there'll be more shock and outrage that it happened there, and I could do more to drive my agenda that way. So that's why he chose it. So he moved to New Zealand and started practicing and training for what he did. I've got the video of the whole event from start to end. We studied it, analyzed it, and looked at his tactics, looked at everything else. This dude was going to the range, putting targets down on the ground and walking around practicing shooting targets on the ground, because that's how committed he was to doing what he did. These people study one another. They actually will become pen pals, and they'll come visit, and they literally talk about, hey man, you were a shooter, what did you do? What worked for you? What didn't work? If you had it to do over again, what would you change? That's a very sick mentality, isn't it? I mean, they want to be successful. They want to kill as many people as they can. A lot of them treat these events like a video game. They'll study and they'll say, well, the last guy got 12. I think I can get 13. They went out and do the last one. So they're all about the most casualties in the shortest amount of time possible. They are very, some of them will have the harassing or threatening behavior, especially if it's relational and it's like an ex-girlfriend or somebody broke up with them or a family member. They may have negative family dynamics and support system. One of the famous school shooters that you've heard about, and I don't like to name them, I think media gives them way too much attention as it is, so I don't like to add to it. But one of them that you would recognize, this kid was so twisted and warped and messed up that the way that he communicated with the world was he took black plastic, put it over the windows to his bedroom, blacked them out, couldn't see in or out. The only way he communicated with his family, with his mom, was by email. He never face-to-face with his mom. He cut off from society, didn't want anything to do with her either. So when he got hungry, he sent her an email or a text and said, bring me my dinner. So she would bring his food up and put it on a tray and set it down at his door, go back downstairs and text him or email him and tell him that his dinner was ready. He'd go out and get his food to eat. He'd take the tray, leave it back out there and say, you can come pick up the dishes. That's his own mother. He wouldn't communicate with her. Okay? So when you're dealing with somebody that sick and twisted, are they isolated? Are they withdrawing from society? Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious. Okay? So let's talk a little bit. We said there was no real profile. The closest we can get, if we look at the bulk of the shooters, we said, okay, there is no one profile for them all, but what's the one thing that's fairly consistent? The majority fit into white male in his 40s. It's the single most common type of active shooter. We said already, some of them have an Avenger mindset. They're out to get even with the world, and some of them will broadcast. Some of them write manifestos and put it up on the internet. A lot of them will tell their friends or people they talk to that know what they're about to do. Most of the attacks occur in commerce, so businesses, retail, industrial, whatever fits in that category. Over 50% of them. You always hear about the school shootings, but you can see that there are fewer school shootings than there are in businesses. Why do you think there's more attention on school shootings? The media. The media will sell that story in a heartbeat. No offense, but they're less concerned about a business getting shut up than a bunch of kids. And I get that. I mean, we're all more emotional about a kid being hurt than an adult. So what does the media do? Every time it happens in a school, they blast it all over CNN, Fox News, and all this every day for days on end, 24 hours a day, right? So the next guy out there that wants attention, what does he realize? Shooting down at the plant didn't get much attention, but the one school got all kinds of attention. So what do you think he's planning? We're going to see more and more of those as time goes on, I'm afraid. What limits the number of deaths, or what influences how many people die in these shootings? Number one thing is how quickly the police arrive and target availability. We talk about target availability. We've toured the plant several times. Anything up high, like the catwalks that are up high, that's where a shooter would like to be. And these guys do train, they practice. I've watched the tactics. The shooter in New Zealand in the mosque actually had really good tactics. I hate to say it, but he did a lot of things right. Every time he reloaded, he moved back to a position of cover and reloaded his weapon, even though there was nobody shooting back. And he'd step back out and engage. When he ran out, he moved back to cover. He was doing tactical mag changes. He had all kinds of tactical gear. I mean, these people know their stuff. So if I'm a shooter and I want maximum position, snipers like to get up high. Okay? So if he's up high on the catwalk, there's plenty of machinery out there that makes great cover. Things you can get behind that will stop a bullet. So if a guy's up on the catwalk and I can't see him, but I know where he's at because I hear where the shots are coming from, am I going to step out from that cover and run somewhere? Heck no. I'm bending down right behind that cover. And Mr. Overholt usually tells a story about hiding behind a fence post when people are shooting at you and there's plenty of room behind one, is that right? So you can fit 4 or 5 people behind a little fence post with somebody shooting at you. You can make a lot of room, okay? So, you know, same thing, if somebody's shooting from a catwalk or whatever, I'm getting behind something, I'm not moving until he can get a line of sight on me, and then I'm going somewhere else to cover. Now, if he turns his attention and he's going over this direction, I'm going that direction, right? So you'll have opportunity, but if I can move in such a way, I move from one piece of cover to the next piece to the next piece and leapfrog, then I can give myself cover while I'm moving. So, 3 minutes. This is the average police response time across the nation. If you took across the whole United States, you averaged every active shooter event, you figured out from the time of the first shot to the first officer on scene, that's what the average you get is right at 3 minutes. So, you know, that seems like a really fast response time until you think about a situation where, boom, guy just walked through the door right there with a rifle. Now, 3 minutes. How many people do you think you could shoot in 3 minutes? A lot, right? So 3 minutes is fast, but it's not fast enough when it's you. And the shooter's right there with it. Now if it's 3 minutes and we got to barricade these doors and try to keep him out, 3 minutes is on our side. Because what we've seen is these sickos, when they come in and do these events, they're cowards. They really are, they're cowards. Because what happens is as soon as they hear the police sirens and they realize that somebody with a gun is coming to stop them, they change their tactics. And we've got surveillance video of these guys that have been monitored where you can literally see them when you hear the siren, they stop. And then you can see the little wheels turning and they stop the shooting and they start trying to move to a different position. Their tactics suddenly drastically get altered. And it's because now they're preparing for the police response. Whether it's they're going to commit suicide or they're going to try to engage the police as they come in, either way they stop the shooting. So when we do training for law enforcement, one of the things we're trying to tell them is, you know, make your presence known. Let them know that you're there because, yeah, they're going to pick it up and get ready for you, but we'd rather them be shooting at us than shooting at other people, right? So that's where we're trying to change the mindset. Disaster response. We talk a little bit, and we're going to hit this very quickly. It's a topic I wrote a book on because I'm very interested in what happens under stress. Where this came from particularly was one lady studied natural disasters and wanted to understand how people react to stressful events like a natural disaster. And she categorized the reactions in 3 areas. First is denial. People will, deny. It's called normalcy bias. Basically what they do is they try to take something that's not normal and make it normal. What that means is all of a sudden you hear that boom, 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 and somebody says, oh, well, they must be doing construction over there. And they'll rationalize it couldn't be gunfire. Even though it sounds exactly like gunfire, it doesn't sound anything like construction. The normalcy bias is, let's make it something normal so it can't be something like that. They'll say it must be fireworks, must be, whatever, fill in the blank. They'll rationalize it something else. So they go into a denial phase. And when they're in denial, they're not taking the positive actions. They're not making the action plans of what they're going to do. They're just going around convincing themselves it's not really the case. So you got to move beyond denial. The minute you hear something like that, you got to recognize it. And the guys who have been there and done that move through denial very fast. Everybody hits it first. But the guys that have been there and been trained, they hear that and they go, that ain't thunder. And all of a sudden they start moving to the plan. They move to deliberation. Deliberation is you take a positive action. I'm going to do something about it. And then you move to the decisive moment where you follow out your action plan. This one I just kind of threw in for fun. Denial is the first stage of no, it isn't. Okay? It's like a lot of conversations with my wife. She'll say, you're in denial. And I go, no, I'm not. Yeah, yes, I am. So this video, this was a great light concert in New York. Band's playing on stage. Pyrotechnic goes off back here. You see that? Flames went too high. They got too hot on the pyro. Set the wall on fire. And all of a sudden flames are going up the wall. And now they've gotten up to the ceiling. What's everybody doing? They were still kind of dancing and enjoying the music. The band was still playing through the first part of it. You can hear people a little panicked. 30 seconds, they finally say, let's pull a fire alarm. So now people start to kind of make their way out of the building. Not too panicked. I mean, they're scared, but not bad. See smokes filling up the room. At about the 1 minute mark, people get more and more panicked. So now we're at 1 minute. Panic starts to increase. People are starting to get trampled. And that's where the video cuts off. That's not where, of course, where it ended. If you look at the facility, this is a kind of a layout of the building. The band was up here at the stage. And so what do you see right here? See an exit. So the fire starts back here on the background and begins to move toward the crowd. The crowd's out here in the main area. Everybody came in the entrance hall right here. So they come in, make their way in, turn and come into the main room. But what do you see right here and here? More exits. Any other exits? You got this one, and this one, and this one. So there's 4 exits right there. What else? The windows, that's right. I'll make an exit. I don't care if the glass is solid glass. Put the building on fire and put me in there and I have no other way, I'll pick a chair up and go through the window. I'll find a way out. So I consider this an exit. So what ends up happening is, after first responders come in, after the event's over, this is the body counts. 31 people piled up in that entrance hallway right there dead. Another 9 were right here, 18 here, 9 and 10 back in these areas. How many bodies right in this immediate area? Only 3 near the main bar area. Only 3 bodies. 1 body here near the stage, none back here at this entrance, a few of them back in the office area. The reason you see so many bodies right here is because when people came in the building, that's how they got in. So when things went wrong, first thing they did was turn around and go back the way they came in, and everybody tried to do it. when you're around people that have law enforcement, military backgrounds, or just have the right kind of alpha mindset, they will notice when they come in a building. I play little games with my kids when they were younger. We go in a restaurant, and after a couple of minutes, I say, now look me in the eyes. How many exits in this facility? And they'd say, I don't know. At first, they didn't know. I'd say, where are the exits at? Well, we came in to one. Same thing, right? They're thinking the way they came in, it's all they thought about. And then after I did this like 50 times, guess what? They began to expect it. Dad's going to ask the question. So when I came in the restaurant, they started looking, where's all the exits and all that. So when I'd ask the question, how many exits? They go, 3. And I go, where are they at? Well, there's 2 doors back here, there's 1 door up here, and there's all kinds of glass down through here. They learned. Okay? They got to the point they were doing it, and after a while, I didn't have to mention it. Now, even as young adults, they come in and they're sitting there, and I'm seeing them look around the room because it became a habit. They learn to see ways in and ways out. So when I go in, first thing I did when I came into this facility was learn where all my points of ingress and egress are. How do I get in and out of here? Because if something kicks off, I'm going a way that not everybody else is going. This, by the way, is the bodies piled up at the door. You see the one lady there, there's all kinds of bodies. That was at the Great White Concert. So we talked about being deliberate. Deliberate means that you make a plan of action. You're forming what I'm going to do. One of the main things to do is to breathe. When I was training with Department of Homeland Security guys, their instructors, first thing they did was put me in a stressful situation. It was kind of our FTX, our final training exercise. They ramped everything up. And I came in the building, and the trainer that was with me, I was playing student at that point. I come in, and he could see I was breathing kind of hard. I'm kind of jacked up and nervous and all that. And, I'm being graded and evaluated, and not like the movies. I fire around. I'm responsible for it. I hit somebody innocent, kill the wrong person. That's on me. I got to deal with that. So as I come in, I'm jacked up. He looks at me and says, "Dude, get in the corner." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He said, "Stand in the corner. You need to settle down." He put me in the corner. He said, "Breathe." And I'm hearing gunshots and explosions and all this crap, and he's like, "No, breathe. You need to breathe." So I stood there. It's like, good. Now go do it. So just a breath or two is enough to calm the system down, get your nerves under control, and get your logical part of your brain working. Because when you stress out, the emotional side of the brain takes over. We talk about scripting and practice. Scripting was knowing where I can get in and out, where would I go, what would I do if something happened. Practice is just practicing the ideas. We call this hiding and hoping. As a passive approach to evasion. We believe in evasion, not hiding. There's a difference. Hiding is, I'm going to get under something, get behind something, and hope to goodness nothing bad happens. Evasion is, I make a deliberate plan to do something. And my plan is intelligent, it's smart, it's well thought out, and I'm doing it intentionally. So we talk about evade, conceal, and counteractions. We'll go through those here briefly. So, evade. Leave the area as fast as you can. If a shooter comes through that door, guess what? I'm looking for that door real quick. If I'm not in a position to deal with it, I'm getting out of there. And even if I am in a position to deal with it, one thing people with weapons don't understand until we put them in scenarios, we'll do little scenarios like a gas station robbery. We'll have a guy that's concealed carry. We'll give him a special weapon that fires like safe projectiles. Safe, I say that, they hurt like crap. But we give them projectiles they can fire at each other. And as soon as the gunman comes in and pulls the gun out, first thing they do is they start going for their weapon right out in the open. And guess what happens? The guy with the gun already out, and the guy going for the gun, guess who wins? Action beats reaction, right? So every time they get shot. And they go, but I was the good guy. Yeah, he didn't care. He saw another guy with a gun, he shot you. So part of it is getting out of the area, getting to a position where if you are, in that situation, you know how to engage and what to do. For this purpose, we're talking about just get out. Know how to get in and out. Consider threats from elevated positions. We talked about that in call 911. Get the good guys coming. So we're going to move past a couple of these real quick. And this situation is from a camera. How could I get out of this room? See the ladder? Is a shooter going to come up the ladder after me? Not unless he has something really personal with me. Because it's going to take him a minute to get up that ladder, deal with me, and get back down the ladder. If there's 20 people over here and he's going for the high score, guess who he's going after? He's going after the 20. We talk about concealment, lock the door, turn the lights out. Sandy Hook, when the shooter came in, went past the first classroom, went to the second classroom to engage the kids. The reason he passed the first classroom up was because the teacher had taken all these little artwork the kids had colored and drawn, and she plastered the window with them. So it blocked out all the light. So when the shooter walked in, he saw that, didn't see any light coming from the room, and went past it, went to the second classroom and started shooting. So if you were going to do something in this room, the first thing I do is get the lights off in here. If the shooter comes up that stairwell or whatever and sees the lights out, he may think there's nobody in here. Get everybody out of sight, get them to the center of the room, away from the doorways, get the lights off, and start barricading the door. Throwing chairs in front of it may slow him down. That helps. But there are better options. One of the better options that we'll look at here real quick is if you have a belt. If it's a double door, you can use the belt to tie the two doorknobs together. You can put a belt around the automatic door closer arms. That makes it very hard for someone to open that door after you do it. A lot of people have belts in those situations. Very easy to wrap that up. You can put a belt around the doorknob and stand there and just put all your weight against it. In Virginia Tech, one of the things they did when the shooter came to the doorway, he went to one classroom, shot through the door, and there was a teacher using his body against the door to hold it back. Unfortunately, he saved a lot of kids, but unfortunately the teacher died. But in the last classroom the shooter visited, when he got there, the shooter came to the door and it was restricted, so he thought the teacher was standing in front of the door, so he started shooting through the door. The kids were smart. I say kids, they were college students. They were smart. They laid down on their back, put their feet against the bottom of the door, and used their body weight to keep him from opening the door. They didn't have locks, so they got creative. You can get creative when people are shooting, right? You can get very creative solutions. Counteraction. You see how shooters come through, and he's got a helmet on for his safety, using a training weapon, comes through the door, somebody on either side. So when the door's in the middle of the room, we call it center fed. Center fed room like that, put somebody on either side of the door and they ambush him as soon as he comes through. Now a room with the door, what does he got to do if the door's closed? Got to take one hand off the weapon and reach for the doorknob and open the door, right? Is that a vulnerable moment? Yeah, absolutely. He's not as prepared. He's got to walk through the doorway, see what's in the room, assess it, and then engage. That's when we hit him. We've done this training where we've had them take books and throw them at him as he comes through the door, distracting. We've had people stacked on the doorway. First guy usually goes for the weapon and controls it. Second person, we get them in a line, about 3 of them in a line, lined up from the edge of the door here in, or the edge of that door in. First guy grabs the weapon, second one goes for the knees. Just football tackle, take the knees, wrap them up. Dude can't move, he's hit up high, he's locked up down low. What's he gonna do? He's gonna fall over. As soon as he hits the ground, number 3 secures the weapon, everybody else piles on top of him. Real simple, you don't have to have a lot of training, you don't have to be a black belt to figure that out. What you do need, though, is for somebody to step up in those situations and say, all right, here's what we're going to do. I want you to take that door, get you 2 people. You take that door, get 2 people. Okay, everybody in place. Everybody else right here, get right here. You need somebody that's running the show, because when you don't, our training shows that when we do this in a group like this, everybody sits there and looks for somebody else to tell them what to do. Someone's got to step up, take leadership. And once somebody does, what we found, instead of everybody sitting there going, everybody feels content, like they feel better knowing somebody's leading. So we really push that, try to take charge and lead it. I know I'm running out of time. What you do matters. The best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. And we already talked about Virginia Tech, and we'll move past it to the very end here. When the police arrive, one thing keep in mind, Mr. Orwell mentioned, is when police show up, number 1 priority is stop the killing. So if there are people wounded, people bleeding out, it's not being heartless, it's something our people have to deal with if they ever have to do this. You got to keep moving, because I can't stop and treat one person and have 10 or 12 more die. Every 15 seconds is the actual statistic, it's not just made up. Every 15 seconds in an active shooter event, someone dies. Average duration of an active shooter event is about 3 minutes, same as the response time. Most of them run about 3 minutes. The longest ones run about 12, unless they turn into a barricaded subject. in which case they can run on for hours, but now it's a different situation. It's not active shooter, it's somebody holed up in one room with 1 or 2 people or whatever. So time matters. If I can slow him down, I save lives. Make sense? All right. Well, thank you all very much. This we didn't get much time to talk about. The medical side we didn't really get to get into. There's just not enough time. I do want to finish with this real quick. This is Angela McQueen in Illinois. The reason she's important is I like to call people like this out when I do these classes. A lot of people say, well, I don't have training. I don't have weapon. What can I do? This was a school teacher sitting at her desk when one of her older students walked into the classroom, raised a rifle up, and was getting ready to shoot his fellow students. And what did Angela do? She jumped up, charged the guy, tackled him, held him down until law enforcement arrived. So no training, no martial arts, no weapons. She tackled a school shooter and stopped him, and you never heard about it because nothing ever happened. The media doesn't want to recognize people like her that do brave things. They want to talk about these idiots and crazy things they did. So, thank you.
Okay, so what we want you to take away is ECC. ECC. Obey. Get out of the situation. Remove yourself from the threat. If you can't remove yourself when you look for a place to conceal, think about cover. Obey. My next option is cover. Get someplace where the bullets won't penetrate. Get someplace where I deliberately went there because it will give me an avenue of escape. I can do that. Then counteraction is the last resort we're going to do. We feel like all the other options are no longer available, so we're going to take counteractions. There was recently an event in the state of Virginia where a municipal building had an active shooter event. After that event, they had survivors on there talking, and the survivors said this: only a few weeks ago, we went through active shooter training. We were given a class very similar to this class. We went through active shooter training, and they testified to this. They said, I think I survived that event because I had gotten the knowledge from that class. So we hope nothing ever happens like that, but if it does, we hope you're able to say, I had the knowledge to survive that event. Thank you all for listening to us. Let us be a part of your work day. We'll be around in a few minutes. If you have any questions of myself or Mr. Patrick, thank you all.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.